Hi guys, good evening. In the last session, we discussed about bean scopes and we discussed about auto wiring. So can you guys tell me what is bean scope and how many bean scopes are available? Bean scope is going to decide how many objects should be created for the bean class. So how many types of scopes we have? There are 4 types of scopes available. One is singleton, second one prototype, third one is request, fourth one is session. What is the meaning of singleton? Singleton means only one object will be created. Prototype means every time new object will be created. How to configure scope for a bean? Scope attribute we can give. If I don't configure any scope, then by default it comes under singleton scope. Perfect. Next one, auto wiring. What is the purpose of auto wiring? Auto wiring is used to identify which dependent object should be injected into target object. So earlier we performed manual wiring, but IOC can perform manual wiring as well as auto wiring. Can you tell me what is manual wiring? So specifying the dependent object by using ref attribute is called as manual wiring. Now Spring we can perform auto wiring. Do you know how many modes are available for auto wiring? There are 4 modes available: by name, by type, constructor and none. So what is the meaning of by name? Based on the name of the variable, it will identify the dependent object. Suppose if I specify auto wire is equal to by name, what is the name of the variable? ENG. So here, when I write the auto wire attribute, how it will understand which class is the target, which class is the dependent, for which bean you write the auto wire, that is called as a target bean. Then it will go to that target bean and it will identify the reference variables. How many reference variables available? One reference variable is available. For that reference variable, it has to perform the dependency injection. What is the mode I enable? By name. Then it will check the name of the variable. What is the variable name available? ENG. With that ENG variable, is there any bean available? With that ENG variable, there is no bean available. Then what it will do? Dependency injection will happen or dependency injection will not happen? Will not happen. For example, here I am giving ID is equal to ENG. Here I am giving ID is equal to ENG1. Name is by auto wire is equal to by name. What is the name of the variable? ENG. So it will identify this is the dependent and that dependent will be injected to target. So how it will inject it? Through constructor or through setter? Through setter. It is going to call the setter method to inject it. For example, if I give auto wire is equal to by type, then what is going to happen? If I go for auto wire is equal to by type, then what will happen? It will identify the dependent object based on data type of the variable. What is the variable data type? It is a interface. So for interface, bean will be available or bean will not be available? For interface, bean will not be available. For interface, bean will not be available. 1 minute, he's saying no sound. Right, fine. So here by type I have given, by type is a interface. With the interface, there is no bean available. Then it will identify implementation classes for that interface. So how many implementation classes available for the interface? 2 implementation classes available. Now, when the 2 beans are matching for the auto wiring, which bean it is going to inject there? Ambiguity. It is a ambiguity problem. Confusion will come for the IOC container. Petrol engine is implementing the interface. Diesel engine also implementing the interface. IOC not IOC not able to identify which bean it has to inject into this variable. Then it will give ambiguity problem. Do you know how to resolve that ambiguity problem? How to resolve the ambiguity? By giving primary is equal to true. So if I give primary is equal to true, then what will happen? If I give primary is equal to true, then what will happen? Come on. this will be considered as a dependent object, and that object will be injected into target. So run as Java application, right? Diesel engine object is the auto-wire candidate because of the primary is equal to true. Fine, perfect. Now guys, I want to perform dependency injection through constructor with the help of auto wiring. I want to go for constructor based auto wiring. As of now, setter based auto wiring happened. Now remove this setter method, write the constructor. One zero param constructor is available and parameterized constructor is also available. IEngine ENG, this dot ENG is equal to ENG. This dot ENG is equal to ENG. So this is zero param constructor. What is this? Zero param constructor. And this is parameterized constructor. Zero param constructor and parameterized constructor. Now here beans.xml auto wire is equal to constructor. I'm going to give auto wire is equal to constructor. Perfect. So now in my class, how many constructors are available? Two constructors are available. One constructor is the zero param constructor. Another constructor is parameterized constructor. So here I'm removing primary is equal to true. So here diesel engine available as one bean, petrol engine available as one bean. What is the bean ID for the first one? ENG. Second bean ID ENG1. Auto wiring mode constructor. Now let us see how the dependency injection will happen. Can you guess which bean will be injected to this constructor now? Which bean will be injected to this constructor now? Come on, man. We don't know. Run as Java application. Which bean is injected? Diesel engine is injected. Why diesel engine is injected? What is the variable name? ENG. So which bean is matching with ENG? Diesel engine. That means when you go for constructor injection, first it will check for by name. When you specify the auto wire is equal to constructor, first it will check for the by name. With the variable name, if any bean is matched, that bean will be injected to through constructor. Suppose if I give this as engine 2, this as engine 1, then which bean will be injected? Which bean will be injected? Right, right click, run as a Java application, null pointer. No zero param constructor is executed. No bean is injected because with this constructor parameter, no bean identified. Now here, if I go for this auto wire is equal to constructor, which one it is doing, guys? It is going for here constructor is available. This constructor not executed. Why this constructor not executed? Name not matching. Then IOC used which constructor? Zero param constructor. For let me remove this zero param. Now which constructor is available? Parameter constructor. Run as a Java application. Now what happened? No qualifying bean, expected single bean, but it found two beans. Earlier it performed by name. Now it is performing by type. That means whenever we specify auto wire is equal to constructor, first it will check for by name. With the name, if the bean is matching, it will inject that bean. With the name, if the bean is not matching, then it will go for by type. So with the by type, how many beans matched with this data type? So now check the constructor argument, guys. What is the name of the argument? ENG. With this, is there any bean ID matching? Not matching. Then it is checking for a data type of that parameter. What is the data type of the parameter? Interface. For that interface, how many implementations available? Two implementations. Which one it has to inject? You don't know. Ambiguity problem. How to resolve that ambiguity problem? By giving primary is equal to true. Now tell me, what is by name, by type constructor? Constructor is the combination of by name and by type. So if you want to perform setter injection, go for by name. It will identify the dependent. It will call the setter method. If you go for by type, based on the data type, it will identify and inject it with the setter method. I want to perform auto wiring with the constructor. then you need to specify auto wire is equal to constructor. Then it will check the constructor available in the class. There is a parameter constructor. What is the argument? ENG. With this argument, any bean available? No. Then what is the data type of the argument? Interface. Two beans are matching, not able to identify which one. So it is a ambiguity. How can we resolve that ambiguity? Primary is equal to true. Are you guys getting my point? Yes. So can you tell me the point? Auto wire is equal to constructor. Auto wire is equal to constructor. What is the meaning of auto wire is equal to constructor? It will check. It is used to perform auto wiring. It is used to perform auto wiring using constructor. So which mode it will, how it will identify the dependent? First it will check with the by name. With the by name it is not able to identify, then it will go for by type. Are you getting my point? So constructor mode will check for by type, then it will check for first by name, then it will check for by type. Constructor mode will use by name, then by type to identify dependent bean. To identify dependent bean object. With by name it is not able to identify, then it will go for by type. So with this, are you able to understand what is auto wiring? Yes, auto wiring is used to identify dependent object and perform the dependency injection. You can perform a manual wiring or you can enable auto wiring. Are you clear? Perfect. So with this, we understood what is IOC container and what is dependency injection. Fine. None means no auto wiring. No means no auto wiring. That's it. So that is the default value. You no need to specify anything. If I give auto wire is equal to no or none, what is the meaning of that? None is not there. No. What is the meaning of that? That is the default value. You no need to specify. Right. So by name, by type, constructor. These are the modes of the auto wiring. Perfect. So with this, are you guys clear with what is IOC container? Can you tell me what is IOC container? IOC container is a principle which is used to manage and collaborate dependencies among the objects in the application. Then what is the dependency injection? What is the dependency injection? It is used to inject dependent object into target object. How many ways we can do it? By using field injection and by using setter injection and by using constructor injection. Field injection, setter injection and constructor injection also we can perform. Now do you know how to start IOC container? Yes, how to start IOC container? By using bin factory and by using application context. Okay, now what is bin scope? What is bin scope? How many objects should be created for the Spring Bean? That will be represented by bin scope. So what are the bin scopes available? We have 4 scopes. What are the 4 scopes? Singleton, prototype, request, session. Singleton, prototype, request, session scopes are available. So what is the meaning of singleton? That is the default scope. Only one object will be created. If you don't specify any scope, by default it comes under singleton. Prototype means every time new object. Request session we will use in the web application. Then we discussed about auto wiring. What is the meaning of auto wiring? Come on. Identify the dependent object and inject into target object. What are the modes available? By name is available, by type is available, and constructor is available. Do you know what is the by name? What is the by name? based on the name, based on the variable name, based on variable name, identify dependent. Okay. Now, if you go for by type, how it will identify the dependent? Based on data type, identify dependent. Okay. What is the constructor injection? If you want to perform auto wiring through constructor, we can go for constructor injection, constructor auto wiring mode. How constructor injection will identify the dependent? First by name, if available, inject. If not available, it will go for by type mechanism. Are you clear? Perfect. Next one, what is primary attribute? What is the primary attribute? What is the primary attribute? It is used to give the highest priority for the bean to perform the dependency injection. What is the ref attribute? What is the ref attribute, guys? It is used to perform manual wiring. Which object you want to inject into which object? So we can perform manual wiring by using ref attribute. How to configure Java class as a Spring Bean? How to configure Java class as Spring Bean? Can you tell me? How to configure Java class as Spring Bean? By using bean. Bean is the ID and class, and we can specify scope, and we can specify auto wire is the also. Like this, we can specify our Java class as a Spring Bean. What is a Spring Bean? What is a Spring Bean? The class which is managed by IOC container is called as a Spring Bean. How to get the bean object from IOC? How to get bean object from IOC container? To get the bean object from IOC, we are going for bean. That is name class name dot class. So which class object you want to get? That class object we are going to pass, and it is going to give that bean object. How many bean objects will be created for a class? How many classes will be created? How many objects will be created for one class? By default only one, because it is a singleton. Every time if I want to create a new object, then I will go for prototype. Are you clear with my point? Yes, perfect. And next one, guys, we are good with this XML configuration. Now I don't want to use this XML. Let's jump into annotation based configuration. Let's jump into annotation based configuration, because these XMLs are outdated, and the most important thing in the Springboot, this XML is not supported. So we are going to develop the projects by using Springboot. So when we go for Springboot, there is no XML configuration. So it's waste of time to discuss this XML. Now let's jump into annotation based configuration. Are you clear? Now here let us see Spring annotations. Let's understand Spring annotations. In the Spring, there are so many annotations are available. There are so many annotations are available. First one, we need to talk about one annotation called @configuration. Listen carefully. This is very, very, very important. Rest of our 3 months of course is completely based on these annotations only. Even in the project, even in the Springboot, what are the applications we are developing? They are based on annotations only. Now here, first of all, let's understand what is annotation. Annotation is used to provide some metadata. Annotations are used to provide some metadata. In the Spring, earlier I used XML file to configure the beans. Here if you see, I'm using beans.xml file. In this XML file, I'm configuring my bean classes so that IOC container can load the beans, can create the objects, and provide the objects ready to use. Now, instead of this XML, I want to manage the configuration by using my Java application itself. I don't want to go for XML. So here we are having one annotation called @configuration. @configuration annotation to represent Java class as a configuration class. Instead of XML, I want to use Java class for the configuration. To use Java class for the configuration, we are going to use the annotation called configuration annotation. And I want to represent Java class as a Spring Bean. In the XML, how we represented Java class as a Spring Bean? By using bean tag. To represent Java class as a Spring Bean, we can use a annotation called component. When I use @component, then that Java class will be represented as a Spring Bean. Not only component, we can use @service also. We can use @repository also. All these three annotations are used to represent Java class as a Spring Bean class. @component, @service, @repository. When we are creating the DAO classes, to represent DAO class as a Spring Bean, we will go for @repository. Repository annotation will be used for DAO classes to represent them as a Spring Bean. @service, the Java class which contains a business logic, to represent that business class as a Spring Bean, we will go for @service annotation. And we have @component. Any Java class which you want to represent as a Spring Bean, we can go for @component. You may ask a question, sir, all the three are used to represent class as a Spring Bean. What is the difference? That we will understand in the coming classes. For time being, remember that these three annotations are used to represent Java class as a Spring Bean. Repository will be used at the DAO classes. Service will be used at the business classes. For normal Java classes, we will use component. What is configuration? To represent our Java class as a configuration class. That means that class will contain the configurations. Instead of doing the configurations in the XML, I will do the configurations in the Java class. And similarly, if I want to represent scope for a bean, we will use the annotation called @scope. Earlier, how we configured scope for a bean? By using scope attribute. Now in the Java, in the Spring, there is a annotation to represent scope for the bean. Similarly, there is a annotation called @auto-void. What is the purpose of auto-void? It is used to enable auto wiring in our class. Earlier, how we worked with auto wiring? By using auto wire attribute. By using auto wire attribute, we performed auto wiring. But in the real time, people will use XML or people will use annotations. People will use annotations. Can you tell me what is the purpose of configuration? What is the purpose of configuration? To represent our Java class as a configuration class. Instead of XML file, I will use the Java class as a configuration class. Then what is @component? It is used to represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. What is the purpose of @service? It is used to represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. What is @repository? To represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. What is @scope? To represent the scope of the bean. If I don't specify the scope, then what is the default scope? Singleton. What is the purpose of auto wiring? To perform auto wiring in our Spring application. Instead of XML configuration, I will go for annotation configuration. Next one, here guys, whenever I use this annotation in the class, IOC container will create the object, will represent that object as a Spring Bean. Now if I go for repository, or if I go for service, or if I go for component, who will create the object for the class? IOC container will create the object for the class. But I have a special requirement. I have one class. For that class, IOC should not create the object. I want to create the object. But that object should be considered as a Spring Bean object. Are you getting my point? No. Yes, sir. Yes or no? No. No, you will not get that. Right? See here. Now here, I'm having a class called car class. Here I'm having a class called car class. For the car class, I'm writing annotation called component. Like that, I'm writing the class as a component. What is the meaning of component now? This car will be considered as a Spring Bean. So who will create the object? IOC container will create the object. Now here, I am having a class called motor. I have a class called motor. Motor class is a normal Java class. IOC should not create the object. I will create the object for the motor. I will create the object for the motor. Whatever the object I am creating, IOC should use my object. IOC should use my object. So here, if you want to create the object and if you want to represent that object as a Spring Bean object, there is an annotation called @bean annotation. What is the annotation, guys? @bean. So @component, @bean, both are not same. Both are not same. If I use @component, IOC container will create the object for the class. That means IOC will create object for my class. But in my project, I have a requirement. I want to create one security class. IOC don't know which methods it has to secure. I know that which methods I have to secure. For that security class, I will create the object. IOC should use my object. Are you getting my point? So when I go for a component, what will happen? IOC will create the object, will be considered as a Spring Bean. That is fine. But in my class, there is a class called app security. I'm writing a class called app security. IOC don't know which methods it has to secure in my project. I know which methods I have to secure. I will write the functionality in the app security object. I will create the object on my own. Whatever the object I am creating, IOC should take my object, represent that as a Spring Bean object. In that scenario, we will go for which annotation? This is damn sure interview question. What is the difference between component annotation and bean annotation? When programmer want to create the object for a class, then we will go for bean annotation. When programmer wants IOC to create the object for the class, component annotation. Are you guys getting my point? Let me show you. Let's wait. Yes, let's go to my GitHub repository, guys. Let's go to my GitHub repository. Ashok ID GitHub. All my projects will be stored into this GitHub repository. Let me go for one project with the name called, what is this? Swagger. Swagger project is available. Good. What is this, man? What is this? What will be there in the pom.xml? Dependencies configuration will be available. Go to SRC. Go to main. Go to this. Go to can you see what is this? @configuration. What is the, first of all, can you tell me what is the Swagger? Today morning I explained what is the Swagger. It is used to generate the documentation for the REST API. Here, what is the annotation I'm using? Configuration. What is the meaning of configuration? That class will be represented as a configuration class. Now, here I am writing one method. I'm writing one method. What my method is returning? Docket object. So this docket object, IOC will create, or I am creating with new operator. I am creating with the new operator. So here, for the Swagger config, IOC can create the object, no problem. But for the docket, I want to create the object because I want to customize that object. I want to customize that object. So here, when I write at the rate bean, IOC container will call this method. My method will return the docket object. See here, what is my method return type? Return new docket. What is the meaning of return new docket? Method is returning docket object. So who will call this method? IOC will call my method. Why IOC will call my method? Because I have given bean annotation. When IOC call this method, it will take the docket object. Docket will be represented as a spring bean. But the difference is IOC not creating the object. I am creating the object. IOC calling my method. My method is giving the object. That object will be represented by spring bean. In the project, when you want to customize your objects, then you will go for @bean. Now, let's go for another scenario. Let's go for another scenario. Here, I'm using Ashok IT GitHub. Let me take some other project. Yes, here repositories are available. Let me take Springboot. Springboot. Okay. So here, Springboot JPA 1-to-many relationship. SRC, main, Java. Can you guys see here what annotation I am using? @service. What is the meaning of @service? What is the meaning of @service? This class contains the business logic. When I write @service for this class, who will create the object? I will create the object, or IOC will create the object? IOC will create the object. Now, when we see the previous example, there is a method called @bean. So here, if I, for this class, I am writing @service. For the docket, I am writing @bean. What is the difference? What is the difference? Component service repository. IOC will create the object. What is the meaning of @bean? I want to create the object. I want to give that object for the IOC. When you want to create the object with some customization, then we will go for @bean annotation. Now, let us see here. What is this annotation? What is this annotation? Auto wiring. So what is the meaning? Now, here I'm telling that employee repository should be injected into employee service. So service is a spring bean. Service is called as a target. In the service class, I want to inject employee repository. I want to inject address repository. Earlier, how we have done that? By using bean tag, by using property tag. Now how we are doing? @service, @auto void. By looking at this code, can you tell me which is a target, which is a dependent? Employee address service is a target. Employee repository, address repository is the dependent. So this address repository, employee repository will be injected to employee service. What is repository? Repository contains the database logic. In the advanced Java, we called it as a DAO. Now we are going to call it as a repository. I want to perform card operations. Insert the record, update the record, delete the record, retrieve the record. How many lines of code I need to write in the JDBC? How many lines I need to write? I want to perform database operations in one table. Update, delete, insert, retrieve. 4 methods I need to write. Now, go here and check in this repository, how many lines of code will be available? How many lines of code is available? Just the interface is created. Any method is available? No. This is sufficient to perform card operations in the database. You no need to write single method also. Everything will be taken care by data JPA. Whatever the Hibernate you are learning, that code you no need to write in the project. That code internally will be executed by JPA. So when it comes to the JPA, I am just going to create public interface employee repository, extend from the JPA repository. This is your entity class, Kam Katham. You can perform all the operations with the database. You can insert the record, you can update the record, delete the record, retrieve the record. How it will execute in the background? Morning Shekhar sir is explaining. Create the session factory, create the session, create the transaction, insert the record, commit the transaction, close the session fact. Nothing is required in the JPA. Data JPA. You no need to write single line of code also. Everything will be executed internally. Are you guys getting my point? So directly if I teach, you may not understand. That's why we asked you to attend some Hibernate classes so that you will get some basic idea what is ORM. But in the real time, people will write 100 lines of code. People will go for data JPA. People will go for data JPA. Now, how much time it will take to develop persistence layer? 10 seconds. You just need to create one interface. That's it. Everything will be available. Ready-made code will be available for you to perform database operations. Now we need to, why? Because inserting, updating, deleting, retrieving, only our requirement, it is universal requirement. Universal requirement, Spring people provided that. That is called framework. So do you know what is the framework? It is a ready-made software. You just to focus on the business logic. Common logic will be provided by the framework. Are you clear? Good. Now you understood what is @service annotation. What is @service annotation? To represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. To represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. What is the purpose of auto wiring? What is the purpose of auto wiring? It is used to inject dependent object into target object. Here, to perform the dependency injection, am I writing any setter method? Am I writing any constructor? That is called field injection. That is called field injection. Whenever we write auto-wide annotation at the variable level, IOC container will use reflection API, will inject the dependent object into target class using target class variable. So earlier we have seen setter injection, constructor injection. Now what we are going to see? Field injection. Are you getting my point? Perfect. Now tell me, what is the purpose of these annotations, guys? What is the purpose of this annotation? What is the purpose of this annotation? Hemant, is there a? Yeah, sorry, thank you. Yes, guys, can you guys tell me what is the purpose of configuration? Yes, configuration is the annotation which is used to represent our Java class as a configuration class. And what is the purpose of component? To represent our Java class as a Spring Bean class. What is service? To represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. What is repository? To represent Java class as a Spring Bean. What is the purpose of scope? What is the purpose of scope? To represent the scope of the bean. If I don't specify, by default it is singleton. What is the purpose of auto wiring? To perform dependency injection. What is the purpose of bean? What is the purpose of bean? To customize the bean object. To customize the bean object. So can I create one project and can I use annotations now? Yes or no? Yes, let's create a project. I hope all of you able to create the Maven project. Yeah, file, new, other, go for Maven. Maven project. Next, simple project. That means I want to create a standalone application. Next, group ID. I'm giving in.ashok.it, artifact ID, 05 Spring annotations application. Annotations application. Click on finish. So the project is created. In this project, I want to use a Spring, right? So now I need to configure Spring dependency. Already we have the dependency in the form.xml previous project having that dependency. Let's go to our latest project, form.xml, add the dependency. Perfect. Dependency added. Spring context is added as a dependency. What is the meaning of adding the dependency? It is downloading the jar files required for the project. There is a bug in the Maven. By default, it is using 1.5. Right click, build path, configure build path, change this library to Java 8 or Java 11. Anything is fine. I have done that change. Now, okay, now let me create a package in.ashokit.beans. In.ashokit.beans. Here I'm creating one class with a name called chip. I'm creating a class with a name called chip. Okay, right. So here I'm taking the class as a chip class. Are you guys getting my point? So here public void chip type. Public void chip type. So here I'm going to return chip type as 32-bit chip. It is returning the type as a 32-bit chip. So here, let me return that as a string. Let me return that as a string. Now, public string chip type, I'm returning as a 32-bit chip. So this is a normal Java class. I want to represent this Java class as a Spring Bean. So simply, can I use an annotation called component? Can I use the annotation called component? What is the meaning of component? So that class is represented as a Spring Bean. Let me write a constructor to understand object is created or not. Let me take chip constructor. I'm taking a class with a name called chip constructor. Now let me take another class with a name called robot. I'm taking another class called robot. Now here public void do work. Public void do work. In order to do the work, this robot requires a chip. This robot requires a chip. Now directly I'm taking chip. Actually, we need to take a interface, guys. Now I am not taking any interface. Directly I have taken a chip here. Generally, we can take iChip interface, implement the chip interface. Now I'm taking normal Java class. So here inside this, I want to do chip dot get chip type. Okay, guys. So here I'm getting the chip type. So what is the return type? String. It is giving the type. String. It is giving the type. Okay. If type dot equals to 32-bit. Generally, whatever it is a 32-bit chip. If type dot equals to 32-bit chip, then system.out.println performance is slow. Something like this. I'm writing performance is slow. Now this robot class, I want to represent as a Spring Bean. How I am representing as a Spring Bean? By using component. So let me write a constructor also for the robot to understand robot object is created or not. So let me specify robot constructor. Why I am writing SOP inside the constructor? To understand when the object is created. If the object is created, that method will be called. If the object is created, that constructor will be called. So here robot is a component and chip is a component, right? Now I want to inject chip object into robot object. How to inject chip object into robot object? By using auto wiring. So where I am writing the auto wiring annotation? I am writing at the variable level. Is there any setter method available? Is there any constructor available? No. Then what it will do? It will perform the field injection. Now here I need to tell the IOC container which classes it has to consider as the Spring Bean classes. I am representing the classes as a Spring Bean by using @component. Here also I am using @component. Now here I need to create one class called configuration class. I want to represent the configuration. Earlier, where I have mentioned the configuration in the XML file. Now I want to mention in the Java. How to represent Java class as a configuration class? At the rate configuration annotation. Now let me go for a class new class, right? So in dot ashok it dot config. In dot ashok it dot config. So here I'm writing a class called app config. I'm writing a class called app config. So here I want to represent this class as a configuration class. That's it. This is my Java class which I am writing as a configuration class. Now I want to create one class called test class. In dot ashok it dot test I want to create app. So here I want to start my IOC container. Let me write a main method. Earlier, how we created the IOC container, can you tell me? Come on. We used application context. Context is equal to new class path XML application context. And we passed XML file as a input. Now we passed beans.xml as a input. But first of all, am I using XML? Then this class is required or not required? What is the purpose of this class? It is used to load the XML file from the class path. So application context is equal to new class path XML application context I have used to create the IOC container. But now, do I have the XML or I don't have the XML? I don't have the XML. Comment that line. I don't want this. I don't want to go for this now. Now I want to use configuration class to start my IOC container. Let us use application context. Application context is equal to new annotation config application context. Okay guys, earlier which class I used to start the IOC? Class path XML application context. Why I used class path XML application context? Because my beans configuration is available in the XML. But today it is a annotation based configuration. Now new annotation config application context. For this we need to specify what is the configuration class in our project. Are you guys getting my point? What is the configuration class in our project? What is the configuration class in our project? App config dot class. That's it. Instead of providing XML file as an input, now I am providing Java class as a input. If you are using XML file to configure the beans, then you will use new class path XML application context. But now I am not using XML, I'm using configuration class. Now see, application context is equal to new annotation config application context app config that class. What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that? Earlier we used to give beans.xml as an input. IOC container will go to that XML. IOC container will identify what are the dependents available. IOC will identify what are the dependents, what are the beans available, and it will load the beans. It will create the object for the beans. Now I don't have XML. I want to tell to IOC, hey IOC, you load this Java class. You consider that Java class as a configuration class. Are you guys getting my point? Now let me start the IOC container, run as a Java application. My application started and it is terminated. Is it creating the objects or it is not creating the objects? It is not creating the objects. Why? Because when no, don't come to the conclusion. So here I'm having a class called config class. Config class is available in the which package? in.ashokit.config. Now by default, IOC container will go to the configuration class and it will check what is the package name of that class. In that package, it will check, do we have any classes? Do we have any classes in that package? Not available. Let me create one class in that package. Just let me create a class called car class. Let me represent that car class as a component class. And let me write the constructor, and let me write one SOP statement, system.out.println car construct. Observe guys, very important topic. Now let me run my application, run as a Java application. Now here, is it loading that car class, or it is not loading that car class? Even I am giving the @ component, still that class is not loaded. So I have given the @ component. What is the meaning of @ component? What is the meaning of @ component? It is a Spring Bean class. Even if I represent that as a Spring Bean class, I have started my IOC container. Object is created or object is not created? Object is not created. Object is not created. Now here, let me write one annotation called @component scan. What is the annotation, guys? @component scan. Now run as Java application. Now what happened? What happened now? Object is created. Object created for all the classes. Object is created for only car class. Object is created for only car class. Why? First we need to understand what is this annotation. We need to understand what is this annotation. Now here, earlier I used to create a XML file. In the XML file, I used to write the bean definition. When the IOC started, it will load the bean definitions and it created the object. Now XML not available. I am using Java class for the configuration. For this configuration class, I am writing component scan. Component scan, nothing but it has to identify which classes available in the project and which classes are represented as Spring Bean classes by using annotations. Component scan, nothing but you scan the complete project. You identify which classes are represented as Spring Bean classes. You tell to IOC container. Earlier, XML file used to tell IOC which classes are represented as a Spring Bean. Now, Java class should tell to IOC which classes should be represented as Spring Bean, which classes are represented as a Spring Bean. Now here, when I use component scan, it is going to search for the Spring Bean classes in the current package. So when I write the component scan, where it is searching? It is searching in the in.ashokit.config package. In that config package, car class is available. Car class is a normal Java class. Car class is a Spring Bean class. Car class is a Spring Bean class. How can you say that car class is a Spring Bean class? @component. By default, it is scanning all the packages, or it is scanning only current package. It is scanning only current package. I want to tell to configuration, hey, you scan all the packages available in the project. You identify Spring Bean classes available in all the packages. For that, what we need to do is, we need to specify one attribute for the component scan annotation, that is base packages. What is that, guys? Base packages. I want to specify in.ashokit as a base package. I want to specify in.ashokit as a base package. That means in the project, any package which is starting with in.ashokit, you scan that package. You check what are the classes available in that package. If any class is represented as a Spring Bean, then create the object for that. Now, let me run my app class. Right click, run as a Java application. Now, see this. What happened? Chip class object is created. Robot object is created. Car object also created. Earlier, it created object only for the car class. If I remove this, it is creating the object for only car class. Why it is creating object only for the car class? It is doing the scanning only on the current package in which app config is available. Not only config package, I want to scan all the packages in the project. All the packages in the project are starting with one base package name, that is in.ashok.it. So if the package is in.ashok.it.beans, it will scan that. In.ashok.it.config, it will scan that. In.ashok.it.davo will be scanned. In.ashok.it.service, it will scan that. Are you guys getting my point? So what is the component scanning? It is the process of identifying Spring Bean classes available in the project based on the base package name. Based on the base package name. So what is the common name for all the packages? In.ashok.it. For example, let me create one class in a package com.tcs.davo. I'm going to write a package as pom.tcs.davo. I'm taking this class as a user DAO. For user DAO, I'm using @repository. I'm using @repository. What is the purpose of repository? To represent the Java class as a Spring Bean. Let me write a constructor and let me perform one SOP. User DAO constructor. User DAO constructor. Can I say this is a Spring Bean? Can I say this is a Spring Bean? Object will be created or will not be created? Will be created or will not be created? Will not be created. Why it will not be created? That class not following the base package naming convention. So remember, when we are developing the project, packages should have a base package name. All the packages should follow some structure. Suppose if you are working for a project in the TCS company, every package should start with com.tcs, com.tcs.controller, com.tcs.controller, com.tcs.config, com.tcs.service, com.tcs.davo, com.tcs.util. Like this, we need to write the packages. Now, among these packages, what is the base package name? com.tcs is the base package name. All right. Now here, I'm starting my IOC container. Am I giving XML file as the input? Am I giving configuration class as the input? I'm giving the configuration class as the input. How to represent Java class as a configuration class? By using @configuration. What is the purpose of @component scan? It is used to scan for the Spring Beans available in the project. By default, it will scan in which package? By default, it will scan in the current package. I want to scan all the packages. So I'm going to specify base package is equal to in.ashok.it. If you want, you can configure multiple base packages also as a array, right? com.tcs. In my project, there are two different packages are available. I can configure these packages like this. In.ashok.it, that means in the project, any package which is starting with in.ashok.it will be scanned. Any package which is starting with com.tcs also will be scanned. Can I configure multiple base packages? Yes or no? User DAO available in which package? com.tcs. Right. Robot is available in which package? In.ashok.it. Car is available in.ashok.it config. Run as Java application. Now can you see? For all the 3 classes objects are created? Yes, for all the 4 classes objects are created. So why object is created for all the 4 classes? Sorry. Sorry, thank you. What is the reason why object is creating for all the 4 classes? Because I have given multiple base packages. I have given multiple base packages. Tell me, what is the component scanning? It is the process of identifying Spring Bean classes available in the project. By default, it will scan in which package? It will scan in current package. How to scan all the packages? By giving base packages. Can I configure multiple base packages? Yes. in.ashokid com.tcs. There is one magic that we can do. See here. I am removing base packages. Where is my configuration class available? in.ashokit.config. Now I will rename it. I will rename this config package to just I will keep it as in.ashokit. Okay. Now let me remove this DAO and all. Are you guys clear with my point? Config class is available in the which package? in.ashokit. Now run the class app.java, run as a Java application. What happened now? Is it scanning only current package or it is scanning all the packages? Can you guess what happened? Correct. Correct. Now in.ashokit considered as a base package. So whenever your configuration component is scanning available in the base package, any package which is starting with the in.ashokit also will be scanned. Right now, let me create one more package, new class user DAO. This I am going to keep inside a package called DAO package in.ashokit.dao. So here I'm writing an annotation called @repository. Right, let me write a constructor. Let just write the SOP to understand object is created or not. User DAO constructor. So now this package will be scanned or this package will not be scanned? Will be scanned. Why? Because what is the base package? in.ashokit. Okay, go for app class, run as Java application. So car is scanned, chip is scanned, robot is scanned, user DAO also scanned. Now here guys, I'm taking base package name. Here I'm taking base package name as in.ashokit. And here in this package, I am having app config class. I'm having app config. For app config, I have given configuration. For app config, I used configuration annotation and I used component scan. What is the meaning of configuration? Making the Java class as a configuration class. For the app config class, I used configuration and I used component scan. In which package that class available? in.ashokit. That package I am considering as a base package. Now let's go and write a package in.ashokit.service. This package will be scanned or will not be scanned? Scanned. This package will be scanned. Suppose if I write a package in.ashokit.util, will be scanned or will not be scanned? Scanned. Why? This package is starting with the base package. This package also starting with the base package. For example, if I write a package com.ashokit.dao, will be scanned or will not scan? Not scanned. Why it is not scanned? It is not matching with the base package name. So tell me definition for the component scan. If somebody asks you what is a component scanning? If somebody asks what is the component scanning, what is the purpose of it? It is used to identify Spring Bean classes available in the project. It is used to identify Spring Bean classes available in the project. It will start the scanning from the base package. It will start scanning from current package. It will start scanning from the current package. So now my app config class is available inside in.ashokit. That package will be scanned. Because of that, car is considered as a Spring Bean, car class constructor is executed. What is the meaning of constructor is executed? Object is created. After Ashok IT, then it is going for beans. Beans package. Chip is available. Chip is a Spring Bean. Object is created. Robot is a Spring Bean. Object is created. And DAO is a Spring Bean. Object is created. And DAO is a Spring Bean. Object is created. Are you guys clear with these annotations? At the rate configuration. What is the purpose? To represent Java class as config class. What is at the rate component? To represent Java class as Spring Bean class. What is the purpose of service? Same. Repository? Same. Scope? To represent scope of Spring Bean. What is the default? Default is singleton. What is the purpose of auto wiring? What is the purpose of auto wiring? It is used to inject dependent into target. Inject dependent into target. What is at the rate bean? To customize bean object creation. To customize bean object creation, we will go for at the rate bean annotation. Are you guys clear? Component scanning is used to identify bean classes available in the project. It will start scanning from current package. Right. Any questions, anyone? Annotation is easy. XML is easy. The annotations are, even if it is difficult, we have to learn. There is no option. Because nobody is using XML. Okay. So here I will give you app configuration class. This is my app config class and this is my car class. Just I will give two classes. App config class, car class, and I will give you chip class. Okay. And I will give you this test class. How I am starting IOC container with a annotation based configuration. Perfect, sufficient. Okay. With this, can you guys develop the project with this annotations approach without XML? Yes. Anybody having any questions, guys? Yep. Yeah. Tell me, what is the question? Yeah, auto wiring, I will explain. Auto wiring, I will. No, I will come to that. 1 minute. Yeah, man. Tell me, what is your question? Correct. It is totally empty. It is used to perform the component scanning. As I told you, if you want to customize the bean object, That customization object methods we will write in the configuration class. So I have shown you Swagger config class earlier, right? So in that configuration class, what I am doing, I'm writing the method which is used to customize the bean object. So any customizations that you want to do, that we will do in the configuration class. That's it. Okay, guys. I will come to that point. I'm come to that point. Here, if you want to perform setter-based constructor injection, you will write auto-void annotation at the setter method level. If you want to perform constructor injection, you will write auto-void at the constructor level. If you want to perform the field injection, auto-wiring we will write at the field level. Auto-wiring can be done at 3 places. At the setter method, you can write auto-void annotation. At the constructor level, you can write the auto-void annotation. At the field level also, you can write the auto-void annotation. So tomorrow we will come to auto wiring with the annotations concept. So today we are just understanding how to represent Java class as a Spring Bean by using annotation. What is the component scanning? How to start the IOC container with the annotation based configuration. In order to start the IOC container with the annotation based configuration, we are using annotation config application context. Are you clear? Right. Online students, please type your questions in the chat. I will read that. Component service repository all are same. Which one is preferred? Yogesh, I will clarify when to go for component, when to go for service, when to go for repository. We will discuss the differences between those three. Then you will understand which one to use. Jansi, if I am uploading the programs also, what is the use of doing this course? Huh? If I am, whatever the examples I am writing, if I upload the example, then why are you doing this course? This course is used to do the practice on your own. You need to learn that program. You need to develop that program, madam. Huh. In singleton design pattern, singleton scope, both are same. Different, both are different. Eager loading and lazy loading. Eager loading means IOC container will create the objects immediately for the singleton beans. That is called eager loading. For prototype beans, whenever you create the object, then only object will be created. One by one. Saya is primary is equal to true can be used only if two class implements one interface. Yes. If you have ambiguity, then only you need to use the primary is equal to true. If ambiguity not available, then no need to use that attribute. Okay, guys, perfect. Yeah, I'm uploading this Word file. I want everybody to do the practice. Some people are asking the notes with the example. If I give the example, then what is the benefit? How you will improve your coding skill? You should be able to develop the program on your own. Today you may face exception. If you do the mistake for 10 times, then you will understand what is the mistake you are doing. If I give the code, you will copy paste. You will never become a programmer. Don't do the copy paste. I want you to try developing the logic on your own. If you face, then I will tell you how to do that. If you face some problem, let me upload the today's notes. Today we discussed about Spring annotations concept. So in the Spring, there are several annotations available. Today we discussed a few annotations. Those annotations we are going to use to represent our Java classes as Spring Beans. And today we discussed component scanning also. What is the purpose of component scanning? It is used to identify Java classes as Spring Beans. By default, which package it is going to scan? By default, it is going to scan the current package. I want to scan all the other packages also. How to scan all the other packages also? By using base package. So if I don't want to go for the base package, current package we need to mention that. Good, perfect. Let me upload the material. Any other questions, guys? Anyone? Anyone having any other questions? Yes, sir. By using by name, there is no use, right? When you go for by name, it will check the name of the bean. You cannot write two beans with the same name. Then there is no use of that. primary will help you only with respect to by type ambiguity problem. When there is no ambiguity, then there is no use of going for primary. What is ambiguity? Confusion. Ambiguity means confusion. Yeah, guys, check it. Check it. Check the notes is available. I uploaded the notes. Please confirm. Please confirm, is the notes available? I updated the same file. Please check it. Available? Not available. Available. Available, na? Okay. Fine, guys. Good. Thank you. With this, I'm stopping for now. Tomorrow morning, we will meet in the project class. Thank you.